And we'll start it off with the Carolina Hurricanes at the Boston Bruins. Game time, 7 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Pacific. And of course, we know Carolina owns a 2-0 advantage in this series. They have beaten Boston 4 straight times. And not only have they beaten Boston, they have beaten them thoroughly. Now the combined goals between these two teams is 26-4 in their last 4 meetings, including the last 2 postseason meetings. So Boston has their work cut out for them for sure. Let's take a look at the number. They're giving the Bruins a lot of respect in this one. Minus $1.30, 5.5 over -20. That might be because of the goaltending matchup tonight, but I expected Boston to be about minus $1.15. So I was a little shocked when it was minus 30. The matter if Kochetkov is in goal tonight or not, whether it's Antti Ranta, I don't think it really matters. I did think this number was going to be a little bit lower. So far, Carolina, as I expected, they've received the majority of the action from the public, so that's pushed this number up a little bit. So I don't think that's going to stop. I don't think you're going to get a lot of buyback, especially if Antti Ranta later on today is named the starting goaltender. We'll get into that in a little bit, but it's an interesting move by Bruce Cassidy. And I think if you're Bruce Cassidy, the head coach of the Boston Bruins, you realize you have to do something. Going back to Jeremy Swayman in this one, it wasn't as unexpected because, he said, okay, Linus Ullmark is not only going to start in game 1, but he also gave him game 2. And a lot of people thought, well, maybe they'll go back to Ullmark in game 2, but that didn't happen. And now that Linus Ullmark got lit up, or they didn't play well in front of him for the most part either. But Swayman's going to go back. I think the way that I perceive the words coming from Bruce Cassidy's mouth is he's just kind of crossing his fingers here. I don't think he puts all the blame on Linus Ullmark. I don't think he thinks he's a detriment in goal. And nor do I feel like he's very secure with Swayman. You listen to some of his comments, and he'll talk about Jeremy Swayman, like, I hope he's up to the task, that sort of thing. It's sometimes you can read a lot into the way people speak and their body language, and I think Bruce Cassidy knows that he's really up against it in this series. And to make matters worse for Boston, of course, Hampus Lindholm is going to be out for game 3, at least game 3, after absolutely getting annihilated by Andrei Svechnikov the other night in game 2, which, in my opinion, was still a clean hit. Don't ever like to see it, but I think it was a clean hit. The number, as I said, might be skewed just a little bit. And again, it goes back to goaltending. I would watch, if you're up in the air and you're not just going to follow this, if you're up in the air who's going to play tonight, I know that Kochetkov is listed. But there has been some talk that Antti Ranta might get the start. They're going to throw him out there at practice, which probably is going on right now towards the end. So I would check Twitter and all your social media platforms to see exactly who was the first off the ice. They didn't rule out Antti Ranta in this game. So if you're betting based on goaltending, you might want to wait and see exactly who's going to be in net for the Carolina Hurricanes and Rod Brendamore. Physical style for the Carolina Hurricanes has absolutely forced Boston into an undisciplined type of hockey. The top guys have not been the top guys, especially in that game 1. Game 2 a little bit better, but I need to see more from Bergeron. I need to see more from Marchand, and I need to see more from Taylor Hall. I need to see these guys that got them to this point, and they just have been non-existent. And I don't know if it's the style of hockey that Carolina plays, but it's a very heavy forecheck, in-your-face type of hockey that really it does 2 things. It either forces you to make mistakes in your own end, in your defensive end, or it puts you in a position where the other team gets frustrated and they commit a lot of penalties, which we saw in game 2. Boston Bruins had 9 penalties in game 2. They gave up 9 power plays to Carolina. Carolina cashed in on them. There was a 5-on-3, just very undisciplined. And what really worries me about this is after you saw what happened in game 1, I thought Boston was going to come out and be the aggressor in game 2 and say, hey, look, this is not going to be a pushover series. In fact, not only did they get pushed over, but they got pushed over worse than they did in game 1. So from a mental standpoint, I really question where the Bruins are right now, even though that they're going home. I think the first 20 minutes will tell you what the rest of the series is going to be like tonight. For tonight's official selection, though, the Canes have not been great in Boston overall, but they've won the last two by a combined 13-1. As we mentioned earlier, they've not only won 5 straight overall, but Boston has not been even competitive for a full 60 minutes in those 5 games. There's no way until I see a better effort from the Boston Bruins that I can take or lay $1.30 with a team that has not been competitive against Carolina in quite some time. So we're going to go with Carolina and the very generous plus money tonight, plus $1.10.